If you feel like they're making something a competition, girl, like leave. Like that is not your friend.
What is up, everyone? I'm your host, Alanized, and this is Noche de Pendejadas, your favorite talk show turned podcast, en donde yo traigo a tus influencers favoritos para platicar y posiblemente sacarle sus trapitos al sol. Please help me welcome tonight's guest, Emely Hernandez. Hello, hello. ¿Cómo estás, amiga? How are you?
How are you?
Good. First of all, how was the drive? I know you drove. I was watching your live this morning, and you're like, bitch, I'm gonna hit traffic. How was it?
It was like an hour and like 10 minutes. It wasn't that bad. Usually it goes up. Like,
it's gonna be bad going back though.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I already know. I was watching your live earlier because she was getting ready on live. Yo, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get ready with her. I literally was getting ready with you. And when you were talking about traffic, I'm like, yeah, girl, you're gonna be stuck in traffic, aunque sea por una hora y media. Pero saben que lo bueno que te tenemos aquí. I've been trying to get you on the show for a while now, and it's finally happening. I think we had talked about it maybe like a year and a half ago. Y no se hizo, you guys, hasta este momento, y eso es todo lo que importa.
Dude, you know why though? It's because I've always been very like dependent on like my friends and stuff. So I've always just, done stuff with them, but I'm like, bitch, I gotta step out of my comfort zone.
I gotta do shit alone sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No,
and I feel like that's also like a good thing, because I feel like now that we have you here alone, we're gonna be able to know more about you as a person. We're gonna be able to know more of Emely. Y pues yo estoy muy contento. So antes de que empecemos con el chisme y todo eso, I'm gonna go ahead and send over the mic to you so you can let us know a little bit more of who you are and what you do.
Okay, so hi, I'm Emely. Basically now I'm doing TikTok, and I also do a little bit of Instagram. I don't know. I actually moved out back to Miami. I think it's been like 4 months.
Okay.
And I was with my family, and I haven't said this out loud actually, but the 2 months that I was there, I got so depressed. Like I would just sleep all day.
Yeah.
And then I'll go out on the weekends, which by the way, the party life in Miami is insane. Like
I've heard.
They're up until like 7 a.m. And after staying there because it was the first time I've experienced Miami, like being 21 and up.
Like grown, yeah.
Yeah, so I just realized it wasn't for me. Like
fuck that, I'm going back home. Yeah.
I outgrew Miami. I outgrew the city. Obviously, my family's still there, so like I kind of miss them sometimes. But I was like, bitch, I gotta go back to LA. Like all my friends are here. I also have like my friends are a good support system too.
How long have you been back in LA for?
I think it's been like 4 months now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that been?
It's been good. I've been focusing more on myself now because I used to really, really party, especially when I was young and I was like 19 and I came out here. But it's good that I'm working on myself, but it's also like a little lonely process,
Pero lo bueno que estás trabajando on yourself. So yo quiero empezar con el chisme. So yo quiero que me digas un poquito más. How was Emely growing up? How was your childhood? Cuéntanos todo.
Ooh, my childhood. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. I remember some things from my childhood, but I don't remember a lot. And I feel like a lot of that is trauma, and part of me wants to remember, but also part of me does not.
It's like trauma block.
Yeah, like my brain just blocked it out. But from what I do remember is, so basically my parents divorced when I was like very young.
Okay.
I think I was like 5, and I had the split weeks where it'd be like 2 weeks my mom would have me, and on the weekends of one of those 2 weeks my dad would have me. And obviously I would spend time with my dad and stuff, but he was just the type of dad that would, I was a little kid, so I'd be excited to hang out with him and stuff, and then he'll just like flake on me like last minute and stuff. So I've always had like that problem with my dad. And on top of that, just alcohol and all of that. And I don't know, I've always been very, very close to my mom growing up. She was kind of like a single mother taking care of me. My dad did come in here and there, but basically like I've always been very quiet, very, very quiet. And I was that kid in the daycares that would cry whenever their mom would drop them off. And even at the daycare, the reason why I would cry was because I was always the last kid in the daycare too. Like my mom was working, my grandma was also working because it was like right next to my grandma's. So it was just me. Like at the daycares. Yeah. So I know my mom was trying her best to support me by working and stuff, but it's just, I guess as a child, like I didn't understand that. So obviously it took a toll on me. But Yeah, I mean, my childhood was, from what I remember, I have some, obviously I was a kid, like I have some very, very good memories. Like my mom put me in the summer camp too. That was really, really fun. And I feel like I made friends off of that. But overall, it's just, from what I remember, it's my mom. She was very, like, always there to support me. Always, you know, she always made me pasta.
You grow up without having your parents both together. Do you feel like that affected you in any way?
100%. I think it affects me now too. Even when it comes to like my relationship with men too, it definitely, daddy issues. Like it definitely does affect my relationships, but that's why I'm working on myself, and that's why I'm you know,
want to
trying
break
to
that
better
cycle.
Exactly. Yeah.
So obviamente you were in school. Were you like peleonera? Were you always getting in trouble? Were you the quiet girl? Did you ever fight in school?
No, someone actually tried fighting me in high school, but we could get back to that after. But in like elementary and middle school, I was always very, very quiet. Okay. I was always scared to speak up. Like, you know, when the teacher would like pick on you and be like, oh, like read this, bro.
You're all
my
trembling.
Anxiety. Yeah, it was really, really bad. I was a very quiet child. I grew up very, very insecure. I'm not gonna lie. Throughout my whole like childhood too. I think a lot of it did take with my family, and also just, I don't know. I still to this day, I question like why, because I'm telling you, my first language is Spanish. Okay. Right. So, I mean, we called it ESOL in high school. I mean, in like middle school and elementary, but I believe it's ESL classes. Yes. How people would actually say it. And I refused to learn English up until I was like 6. Oh shit. Yeah, like my mom literally thought she was concerned for me because she literally thought I had problems because I refused to learn English. But obviously over time, like I learned it. Yeah. And I don't know, I was just a very, I would say kind of not weird, but maybe a little, just very quiet. Like I had friends, but not a lot. I'm telling you, very, very quiet and insecure. Like I was always scared of being perceived wrong. Do you feel like now as an adult, do you feel like that's transcended into your adult life, or do you feel like you've overcome that? I feel like I've overcame it in like a couple ways. Like now I'm way more open to social, things. Yeah, way more social. Thank God, because I'm telling you, it was really, really bad. It started getting a lot better. I feel like this past year recently, especially after I've moved and like I've taken the steps to do things on my own, it's gotten a lot better. But definitely when I first came out to LA, I was so shy. I was so quiet, especially when I was first like meeting people and like people would recognize me. I feel so bad because I feel like people had the wrong impression of me when I first started, because I was very, again, quiet and closed off. And I also wasn't processing like people recognizing me either, you know? You move into high school. How was that? You made more friends. You mentioned is that someone tried to fight you. Cuéntanos. I'm like, okay, so I basically moved from, I grew up in Hialeah, and that's like Cuban Central. Like that's where all the Cubans basically live and stuff. And then my mom moved to another place, Miami Lakes. And then after that, when she had my 2 little sisters, I also have 2 sisters. Okay, great. Yeah. She decided to move to like a more suburban area, and I went from a middle school and high school of 1,000 kids to a high school where like the suburbs were. It's called Ferguson, and it was 4,000 people, and it was just high school. Like, oh shit, that's a lot. It was a lot of kids, so it was a huge change for me. And I remember, again, I was crying because I felt like I finally made friends like in middle school and high school, like that I was going to at the time. So yeah, it was just a big change. But getting into it, you know, I started making friends. Obviously, in high school, it was completely different. A lot of more people than what I was used to. But basically, I started talking to this guy during the summer. It was freshman year going on to sophomore year, and whatever, I lost my virginity to him. Okay. And I just want to make this clear. Like, I had no idea he had an ex or anything. Like, I didn't know anything about that, but he ghosted me. That hurt so much. But basically, one day I'm at a McDonald's parking lot, and I was with my friend at the time. And basically, I just hear this girl like bitching at me. And she's basically like calling out me and my mom. She's like, fuck you and your mama. And I remember looking back, and she was like, obviously, like she was taller than me. She was bigger, and she was with a group of guys too. And the guys were recording, and she was just trying to fight me because it turns out that she was the ex. Yeah, but she would also, after I found out, that she would also try fighting like any other girl that has any like thing with him. Yeah. Okay, like those toxic ex. Like that. Like, get over it, girl. She was like toxic. She was very, very. Oh, she was so scary. I remember I've never been the type to fight. I didn't actually get in the, I'm not gonna lie, I walked the other way. I just walked straight home, and someone egged my car like 2 days after.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was her, but
probably
it was my mom's car actually, but maybe, I don't know. I hope not, but yeah, that's like the closest thing I've ever gotten to a physical like altercation like that.
It's crazy, especially when you have someone trying to confront you over something that you're like, wait, nada que ver. Like you didn't have nothing to do with it. It
was over like nothing, you know?
Did you confront the guy afterwards?
I don't remember that actually. I don't remember if I confronted him. I know we weren't speaking anymore. Like,
okay, so it was already like
it was done. Like it was a little summer thing. He basically ghosted me after, and then boom, like his ex just
like, girl, go worry about the one that he's with now. I'm in the past. Literally, that's crazy how girls really are like that sometimes. You know, like se les mete lo tóxico y pues ya uno no sabe qué hacer con ellas, ¿verdad? So you go through high school, you graduate, and there has a time where you have to get a job. Did you ever have like a job before starting social media? ¿En qué trabajaste?
Yeah, so while I was in college, I was in college for like a year and a half. I actually worked at a restaurant. It was like a sports bar restaurant. Mm-hmm. It was Hurricane Grill and Wings, and I started off as a hostess, and then I started doing a little bit of waitressing. But I'm not gonna lie, me not being like super social, it was kind of hard. I mean, I was really good at hosting because all I really had to do was sit people down and like answer the phone calls and put everything in. But then once it got to like me becoming a waitress, I remember I could not keep a conversation for my life. Like I was really, really trying, but at the time I really like just still.
And I feel like some people like want to have a full blown convo. It's like, no, just fucking tell me what you want. Keep it moving.
Which I understand though, because I guess the whole part of the restaurant, like it's like an experience too. You know, like obviously you want like your waiter or waitress to be very like more welcoming and friendly, which I was always super, super sweet, but I know people like wanted more out of me. I was not the best waitress, and I would mess up a lot too.
So you didn't finish college? You said you only went for a year?
Yeah, I went for like a year and a half, and then the wigs started blowing up, and then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just try this more, because I really wasn't happy in college. I was studying psychology, and obviously it's a very interesting subject for me, but I just feel like I was like, where can I take this? You know, like where am I really going to take my psychology degree?
And then you had something else popping off that you're like, girl, like what do I want right now? Follow my dream or go to school? So obviamente you dropped school, and you mentioned that when you drop out of college, you know, the Wiggies started popping off. How did that whole started? I remember in 2020, I was seeing all these TikToks of you guys blowing up, pero yo quiero saber cómo empezó todo eso. How did it start from the idea to the creating and to like your guys' reaction when you guys blew up?
Okay, so while I was working in the restaurant, I actually already started TikTok.
Okay.
So I kind of gained a following on TikTok. I think I actually hit 1 million before the Wiggies.
Shit.
Yeah.
On your personal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of had an idea of how that worked, and I remember it was all three of us. We were gonna hang out, and Julie, during that time, I don't know if you remember this trend, but there was a trend on TikTok where people would just put on like random Party City wigs, and they'll go to the restaurant and they'll just take pictures in the wigs.
Okay, do you remember or even when they would do it like for the bachelorettes, like everybody would go dressed up. It was like super
random, and like you just bring wigs, and Julie had the idea of like, oh, like let's wear wigs and go to like eat and just have fun. And we went to Party City. We all picked out our wigs, and then when it came to it, I was like, let's record videos for fun. Like, let's make an account. I remember we all sat in the car and we're like, what would be a good name? And then we like came up with the name, the Bad Wiggies. And then, we just recorded our first, I think we did 3 videos, and it was all for fun too, which is crazy. I still kind of, it was for fun.
But like you already had a goal. Like you knew like there was something.
I knew it was something different. You know?
It was like an idea that you knew could blow up.
I was like, this could really be something. And after the first 3 videos, I believe, like they instantly like started blowing up, and I was like, whoa. And then we kept on doing it and like kept on recording, and then from there it just became like this whole trend.
How did you guys meet? Were you guys like childhood friends, high school friends, or just like, you know, college? ¿Cómo se conocieron todas?
So I believe Julie was friends with Sile when they were in elementary school, and then I became friends with Sile around like high school time when I moved out. So that's how we all met, and then we just came together after, and from there the whole accounts happened,
and from there it's history, right? So obviamente you guys blow up, and you guys almost get like this instant fame. How was that for you guys? How was that? You know, we saw you guys doing so many collabs with like celebrity. How was that instant rise to fame for you guys?
I couldn't process it.
Yeah.
I promise you, like, I didn't understand what was going on. I still felt like a normal, like, person. So whenever people would, like, freak out, like, let's say we go to, like, a restaurant or, like, a drive-thru or, like, anywhere, and people would be like, oh my God, like, it's a Wiggies. I didn't understand it. And I was so shy and closed off. But I was still, like, after, for example, I would collab with, I think our biggest collab was Sweetie. Sweetie.
Yeah.
I remember after that, I was like, whoa, like, we just met Sweetie.
We made it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was so shy meeting Sweetie too. Like, I couldn't hold a conversation with her either. But looking back at it now, I'm like, whoa, like, we really
did it.
Yeah. Let me put my phone on. It was really crazy. I think we started blowing up when I was 19. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are still, like, pretty young.
Yeah.
I mean, you are still pretty young. What are you, 20?
I'm 22.
22. Okay, so you're still pretty young. So you blow up. You start having all these collabs. Was there anyone, maybe, like, friends or family, that ever doubted what you guys were doing? Like, what are these girls doing? And if so, what were the combos you guys were having, like, behind the scenes?
So I remember when I wanted to drop out of college. Originally, I feel like I mostly went to college also for my mom, too, to make her happy. But again, deep down, I didn't feel right for me. And I remember when I wanted to drop out, it was while we were blowing up, and I was trying to, like, build la bolas, but like, to be able to drop out, I mean, tell her that I dropped out, because I did it first and then I told her.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I did, I thought she was gonna handle it, like, badly, but she was like, you know what, like, I saw it coming, because she knew I've always wanted to move to LA, like, when I was like 15, like, she knew it. So.
And she knew about the Bad Wiggies already by then?
She knew we were, because by that time, I think we were flying in and out of LA.
Oh, okay, so she was like, ya lo miro, me lo va a decir uno de esos días.
She knew. But I know it kind of hurt her too. I think she did cry.
Was she, like, against it a little bit, where she was like, mija, ¿estás segura que quieres hacer esto?
She just didn't understand it. So she was like, this could, she really didn't get it. I'd be like, Mom, like, this is an opportunity. Like, something could really be made out of this. But she never, obviously, like, they're older too. They're not, like, my mom isn't really on social media like that. So she didn't understand the potential that could come from,
And I also feel like our parents are so used to, like, making a living by working, like, physical work. Not saying that we don't do work, but it's a different type of work. So when you come at her like, hey, I can make money, make a living doing videos, it's kind of very much like, mija, ¿qué estás diciendo? Like, ¿estás loca? I'm like, si no, yo también los hubiera hecho. She's all doing videos too. So obviously you go viral, you have this following. What was your aha moment that you're like, you know what? This is actually generating money to where I can make a full living off of this.
My aha moment? Like, I think it was because when we first started taking brand deals as the Bad Wiggies, or it was more so like the sound promos.
Okay.
We were getting scammed, but we had no idea. It wasn't until we started talking about how much we were making to other influencers where they were like, girl, you guys are getting scammed. We were just, like, lowballing ourselves really, really bad. And then after we started telling other people, they were like, girl, like, they're taking advantage of you. But then once we started connecting to other, like, influencers, managers and stuff, and we really started seeing, like, the money rolling in, we were like, whoa, like, this is more than I've made, like, working in a restaurant a whole year. And, like, a couple months, so I was like, we should really
take it serious.
Yeah. I remember because Julie was also working. I think she was working 2 jobs. No, she was working at the time too. And I remember being like, Julie, let's go to LA. Like, let's take the risk, to collab and meet people. And she did it. And
now you're here.
Yeah.
That's so crazy, when you really think about it, because you guys really were a whole era on TikTok. Like, if you think about the Bad Wiggies era, like, there's people that can go back and be like, oh my God, I remember that. I was literally going through your guys' videos the other day, like, prepping for the whole interview and everything. And it's so crazy because there's some videos that I can really remember, be like, oh my God, I remember where I was, because it was like a big thing at the moment. There's videos you guys have with like 4.5 million likes, not even views, likes. Yeah. That is so crazy. So obviamente te mudas to LA at 19. How was it like making that decision? Obviamente you live all your life in Miami, you go to LA. Was the adjustment hard for you?
I think adjusting to the change was really hard. Yeah. And also previous, because I believe when we fully moved out, it was when we had the content house. And it was, before that, I feel like I was already going. Something happened to me in Miami where I was like, I'm ready to leave. I was really, really going through it. So then moving into a house with a bunch of people, mentally, I'm not gonna lie, I was not doing well. Yeah. I was still adjusting to, like, living out in LA. And, it was hard in the beginning. It was really, really hard. but I overcame it. Like,
I feel like especially because, you know, when you live with a lot of people, a lot of personalities and everyone doing, you know, the same thing you want to pursue, it gets a little difficult. Was it ever like hard for you? Was there ever moments where you're like, fuck, I want to move out of the house?
No. I always saw it as, I was very grateful, you know, very grateful. I feel like it was a really, really nice house and it was an opportunity. I think just during that time, if you can kind of tell when I'm going through it, like it physically shows, like you could really see. And if you scroll back at the videos when I was in that house, one, the hate was horrible, but also like physically, I was not taking care of myself. I was not looking my best. Like I was drinking to like cope with my problems. That was just a very like tough part of my life, I'm not gonna lie.
Yo quiero saber un poquito más, porque yo sé que no soy el único que se pregunta esto, pero todas sus seguidoras siempre te andan preguntando, Emely, ¿cómo te va en el amor? How is your love life? How's your dating life? Cuéntanos un poquito de eso. Are you currently dating, looking, or not interested?
Okay, so I actually just had this conversation. I was literally texting her like before I left because I've been single for, I think it's been 4 years now.
Okay.
5, but I've been also emotionally unavailable. And I'm very aware of that. And that's why I'm working on myself, like, et cetera, et cetera. But I have, like, dipped my toes into, like, dating and, like, talking to people. And I realized I kind of ignore the red flags. Like, I know they're there, you know, and I've ignored them. And with this recent guy that I was just texting him. We went out once. Like, my friends met him. My friend met him, it was Maru, and she was like, he is so sweet, like, you know, seemed like the sweetheart. I also thought he was very sweet. Bitch, let me know how I end up getting like what is it that they call those texts from another girl? It was like, hey girly, like one of those.
Hey girlies, are you talking to X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. And she basically tells me that one, he gave her an STD, and two, he's super, super toxic. But she was like, girl, he comes off as very sweet, but I'm telling you, like, he is so toxic. And he gave me an STD. Thankfully, I don't have anything, but it's
scary. You find this out, do you text him back?
Honestly,
like, I'm done. Or what was that for you?
We weren't anything serious. Like, you know, we were just texting. We hung out once. We did our thing. And I texted him just like a part of the screenshot of the girl. Like, I cut off the girl and I was like, hey, is this true? And sometimes no response is a response. Yeah. So he didn't answer. And then from there, I was like, okay,
I got what I needed. Thank you so much. That's crazy. You know, you say you ignored red flags. What are like those big red flags that now looking back, you're like, fuck, I ignored, but you wish you wouldn't ignore or you won't ignore in the future?
Well, that guy, he came off as like perfect. Like he really didn't present any red flags. Like even my friend was like, he seemed so sweet. Like, you know, so that's where I was like, oh fuck, like you really don't know what guys
like,
sometimes.
What are the red flags that I should be looking for?
But previous to that, like the guys that I would talk to, I feel like they would always present the red flags right away. Yeah. It's more so how they treat, because you have to set boundaries, I feel like, if you really want to date. And that's something that I've always struggled with too. So if you don't set boundaries, you know, typically they'll disrespect you and then you kind of get used to the disrespect, which is never good. Yeah. And that's something that is I just take disrespect as a huge red flag. Like if they disrespect women, like see how they talk about like their family and like the women around them. That's a huge way to like really, also their friends. I think friends are
have to
huge,
do a big part with that. Yeah.
If their friends are not like good guys, then there's a possibility that he's
not a good guy too.
Yeah. So I think friends take a huge part. Just how they talk about women too. Like just you have to listen. Like if they're always talking down on women, like girl,
like ¿qué te espera a ti? Like if they talk like that about their mom, their sister, or women around them, like what can you expect for yourself?
Exactly. Like they're definitely talking like down on you or
they're gonna disrespect you, like you said. I feel like respect for sure and boundaries is like a big thing because I feel like a lot of people think it's normal to get disrespected. A lot of women too, you know, think it's okay. And you have to kind of, as a woman, be like, no, it's not okay. Yeah. This is a fucking generational curse that's been going on for so many years. And it's like, I'm gonna fucking end it here and I'm not gonna allow that disrespect. Yeah. So we talk about your red flags. What's like the ideal man for you? Yo quiero saber, if on paper everything seems so good, what's like the ideal man for you?
The ideal man for me, I'd say, again, respect, very family oriented as well. Also has like a thing of his own, you know, puts time into himself, you know, just because I feel like a lot of times when people get into relationships, they kind of make their lives like one, but I also think it's good to have like your own separate thing going. So just have ambition, you know, really takes care of themselves, respectable, cute, like,
like hot, like six pack me. No, that's actually really good things that you're talking about, especially like the not having to mesh the whole relationship and make it your whole thing, because it is very important for our mental health to like have our own things going on for ourselves apart from the relationship.
Yeah, I feel like if you make someone your whole world and it like comes to an end, like you literally like you're takes stuck. A toll on you.
And then you're like, how the fuck do I get up now? Like I depended my whole life on one person, and I feel like that's something that I feel like a lot of girls nowadays like make it their whole thing. I've seen relationships where like their whole like personality, you can say, or just their whole world becomes their boyfriend, or vice versa, their man becomes like the girl. And that's where like a lot of the toxicness comes from, because it's like, oh, you can't even go with your friends anymore because your man's not letting you. And that's when it gets crazy.
That's scary. That's another red flag too, if they don't let you like go out with your friends. Oh, and also like the way you dress too, those are some big red flags.
Have you ever had a guy kind of get intimidated by what you do?
Intimidated? I feel like yes. I feel like they get a little disrespectful, and that's where I'm like, hold on, because I know how I am as a person, and I'm a very nice person, and when guys are just randomly disrespectful to me, I'm like, I'll put them in their place, like, because I don't like that. Like I feel like I've been disrespected my whole life, like by just men in general, like, you know, catcalling and stuff. I got curves when I was very, very young. So, and in Hialeah, it's like the old men, they're not it. Like, bro, I was 13 getting catcalled. So I've always, it was disgusting. Yeah. And up to then, like, feels like I've been sexualized like my whole life just because I've had curves. But getting all that disrespect, obviously it gets to a point where you're like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to take it anymore. So anytime a guy disrespects me, I just put them in their place. Like, I can't anymore.
And that's great. And I feel like that's why, you know, you've been single for 4 years, not because it's a bad thing, but because you've been able to put yourself first and be like, I'm not going to fucking tolerate that shit, you know? So obviamente you've moved to LA, and like you were saying earlier, I feel like especially when one moves from like one state to another, you almost have to kind of create a new family. You have to create your people, you know? And I feel like, I feel like you found your people, but in that process, you know, we've seen you, you know, remove people from your life and as well as adding people from your life. Do you feel like right now when it comes to your circle, to your people, do you feel like you're at a happy place? If so, why?
I feel like, yes, I do feel a lot more happier and content. Like I said, since I am working on myself, I do still feel lonely sometimes, but it's a feeling, you know? I think the people around me are great people. They've been friends like their whole life, and you know, my roommate too, like I met them all, I think around this time. Okay. Maybe a little longer, but they're just great. Like, you could tell, great, genuine people. And it sucks that I've had to go through a lot of trial and error with friendships, but I don't know. I'm happy with the people around me now.
You know, we talk about what you look in a man. What do you look in friends?
In friends, loyalty. Again, I listen to how people talk about like others, you know? Like, if you're close to someone and you're talking bad about them behind their back, like, you probably do that to everyone. Like, that's a huge red flag. I literally, like, I'm very observant too, so I'll listen to like what people are saying, and I take notes. I just listen, and I can kind of pick up on how people are just by the things that they say and their actions too.
What are other red flags now in this new journey that you're going through that you avoid?
I think this comes more so with girl friendships.
Okay.
Maybe just how do I even explain this? Let me think about my past friendships with girls. Obviously, I think sometimes girl friendships are kind of hard. Okay. You know, I think a huge red flag, and this is for like the girls, if you feel like they're making something a competition, girl, like, leave. Like, that is not your friend. Competition and just like little subtle like remarks on you, also like jokes that are actually kind of shady. Like, pick up on that too. Like, that means they're not your friend.
Like, they're literally throwing shit at you 24/7, you know? And able to have a great friendship, you have to be able to know what type of people you want around you, you know, because there's people that will let that slide, and I feel like it's another type of disrespect, but in a friendship level, you know. So obviamente ahorita tenemos doing amazing things on your own, but one thing I do want to talk about, you know, when we first started seeing you pop off and, you know, create this big, empire that you've created for yourself. We did see you, rise to fame with the Wiggies, and you guys don't do a lot of videos together anymore. Was it hard for you as a creator to be like, fuck, now, like, to put in mind, like, fuck, I can do this alone, especially because you come from, like, making group content with the girls?
So, I mean, I feel like I always kind of ended up doing my own content sometimes, my own page too. Definitely the transition of having, like, girls that I moved from to Miami, like, to me now just living alone with all my friends that I have now, it was a little different in the beginning, but I just had to maneuver, like, what I like doing and what I don't like doing. And I mean, I feel like I'm still doing great, like, on my own. I think
you are. I feel like you are, but I feel like it must have been a little scary, right? When you guys were like, fuck, we're going to stop doing the videos. Everyone kind of do your own thing. Were you kind of scared? You're like, fuck, are people going to love us the same way individually? Are they going to maybe not keep up with me because we're not like the trio anymore? Yeah. Was that scary?
I don't think we ever had the conversation where, like, we're just going to stop it now. I think things in life just came in the way, and, it just slowly stopped. Yeah. But, I don't think we ever actually had that talk, like, any of us, but more so I was terrified, like, but living in Miami, I just kept on asking for the signs. I was like, give me signs to, like, move back, because it really didn't feel like
it didn't feel like home no more.
No, it didn't feel like home. Even though my family is there, I just felt like I kind of outgrew the area.
And your heart was somewhere else. I feel like, your passion and your thrive was somewhere else.
My friends were out here too. Yeah. And I was scared at first, but again, it was another risk, me moving out here alone and just doing things on my own now.
And I feel like you're doing amazing. You know what I mean? Like, when I see your content now, I feel like I can I almost, not that I forget, because, like, we all know where we come from, but I feel like as an influencer, you've been doing such an amazing job where, like, you're able to stand alone. Like, we're here with Emely, we're not here with one of the Bad Wiggies, and I feel like that's amazing, because it's really hard to try to, like, disconnect your whole branding from what it once was to what it is now. And I feel like you're doing a great job maneuvering all fucking poop. But you're doing a good job, navigating that new brand that you want to create for yourself. And I see all the growth.
Thank you. I mean, people still call me the Wiggies, which honestly I don't mind. I'm very grateful. That's how I, like, mostly came up. But thank you.
Obviamente, being on social media, you talked a little bit about the hate that you were getting back when you were at the casita. I just feel like being on social media comes a lot with haters. How do you deal with the hate that you get then, now, and that you'll continue getting for the rest of the time we're on social media?
Yeah, dude, I feel like I've always gotten, like, the most hate, always. And in the beginning, I feel like it really did take a toll on me. And then over time, you kind of get used to it. You kind of start realizing that a lot of people that are leaving hate comments like that, either one, they're kids, or two, they're just not happy with them, with them themselves. And I saw this thing, actually, it was like, when people hate on you, usually you have something that they lack. Once I heard that, I think Julie actually told me about that. I was like, okay, like, it, like, kind of
made you feel better.
Yeah. But recently I've actually gained a lot of weight all at once, and I'm working on it and everything. But dude, like, it's been kind of hard on me, I'm not gonna lie. But at the same time, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just whenever I feel like I can brush it off, but when I am, like, in a low mental state, I feel like that's when it hurts. When I'm at my lowest and I read something, for example, about I feel like I didn't really want to open up about this, because I do feel like whenever you open up about something, the comments kind of, like, the haters kind of eat it up, and then they start throwing it at you. But not a lot of comments get to me, but I feel like what gets to me the most is either one, when someone's, like, painting me out to, like, be someone that I'm not, or my body. My body has always gotten to me, and that's because I've always suffered, like, with my body and, like, just the way I've looked. Even when I was looking my best, I still felt like I was bigger than what I actually was. And a lot of people don't know this, but I used to, like, indulge in eating and just throw it up, like, right after. It was bulimia. And even I think it's been months since I've, like, actually thrown up my food, but I've always suffered with like, just my body and everything. And I don't know.
It sucks. You know what I mean? Like from someone like me too, like I've grown on social. I've been doing this shit for almost 10 years, which is crazy to think about it. And in those 10 years, I've always fluctuated. You know, I feel like I grew up too with I don't want to say like an eating disorder, but I will want to say like I would always overeat. Even when I was full, I would be like, no, me cabe. And that caused me to gain a lot of weight. And I feel like the same thing that has happened to you, like people have always like come at me for my weight. I feel like one of those things that I've always gotten the most hate about has been my weight. And like you said, we can easily brush it off, put a face on like, fuck the haters, like they're just jealous or this. But at the end of the day, it does affect us, how we view ourselves. And it almost makes us, like if we already feel shitty and we see these comments, it just validates the way we feel. And it's I mean, for me, it was very much like, oh shit, like I already feel fat. I feel fucking gross. Then I see these comments, well, then I fucking must look gross. You know what I mean? It's almost like that a thing in your head where it almost alters the way you view yourself. And it's so sad. And I feel like a lot of people, even if you're not on social media, I feel like it's very important to really know that your weight, the way you look, does not really put a value on the person you are.
It does not define you as a person either.
It doesn't. Yeah, it really doesn't. And I feel like you're getting to a place where you're like, fuck everyone. I know who I am. I love myself. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. Truly, it's been a journey. It's been a big one.
It's very important for people at home to realize at the end of the day, you're human. You know, like, was there ever a moment where like all these hate comments have made you almost view yourself differently?
Oh, that's happened so many times. So like since the beginning too, it's always whenever I'm like the most vulnerable and sad and I'm going through it where it really does hit. And it make me less confident, you know? It'll take a toll on me, but I always come back up. Like I always mentally like push myself because at the end of the day, these people don't know me. They're hiding behind a screen.
You know, you talked to us about, you know, feeling lonely out here, trying to work on yourself. How does that make you feel? Like, although you're doing it for like a positive outcome, like you said, it gets lonely. Yeah. How's that going for you? How's that journey?
Dude, okay, so it's been kind of rough. These past, I think it's been like a month or two of me finally like putting my foot down and being like, okay, like I need to cut down on the drinking. I need to cut down on the partying because at the end of the day, those are like coping mechanisms, but they're not good ones, you know? And even though it's fun in the moment, you end up feeling like shit after. So I finally put my foot down after years and I was like, okay, it's time to work on myself, time to better myself and become the best version of myself. And no one really talks about it, but it's like I said, it's a very lonely feeling, very lonely road that you have to walk on. I feel like for the longest, I was, you know, my dad's an alcoholic, and I feel like that kind of sometimes runs in the family. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but I would find myself drinking to like numb the pain or like my emotions, and I've finally like learned how to control it, and I'll do it like here and there, like for a friend's birthday or like
casual,
like, you know, like how people
not casual's like every day.
Oh no, not casual.
Every like weekend, like it's more what is it called? Like the occasional
drinking, like here and there, like whenever I go out with my friends, and that would be like once a week, once every two, not twice, bitch, once every like two weeks. You know, I've gotten way better at that, but for the longest, I've basically just been sitting with my emotions now. You know, like I haven't been drinking, I haven't been doing anything. I used to vape too, and it's been very hard for me to quit as well, but I'm slowly like getting there. Like I haven't hit it in like a week or so, but it is hard though. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like the feeling of having to sit down and just feel everything that I've been avoiding for years. It's been very, very hard. And I've been also just becoming more, I guess I'd say, aware of like situations that I've put myself in or I've been in where I've been like damn, Emily, like why did you do that? But overall it's just been a learning process for me.
It's going to continue being a learning process. You know, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, you mentioned about that you were drinking so much before and you've stopped, and you feel like a lot of it has to do with your dad being an alcoholic. You know, I feel like myself too, as an adult now, I grew up with my dad being super alcoholic, even to this day, you know, to where I feel like because of the alcoholism, like it's almost affected our relationship or just any type of relationship he can have with anyone, you know what I mean? And it's really sad, you know, and sometimes I'll see myself because like you said, we live a life of like always partying. Like influencers, you guys be partying Wednesday, Thursdays. Every day can be a lit day if you really think about it. Like, there's events always going on. There's always alcohol being provided.
The open bars. Bitch, that's how they get you.
It's literally, it's scary. And there's been times, more recently, where I sit my ass down and I'm like, bitch, you've been drinking all Halloween. October is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The holidays. I feel like it might be the holidays, but I also can't ignore it and just excuse it because it's the holidays.
Yeah.
There's days where I think back and I'm like, bitch, you're over here drinking hella and you grew up hating your dad over it. You're almost becoming. So I feel like I'm also trying to get on that journey where I'm like, okay, I really need to sit my ass down. And if I'm using it to cope or not, which I feel like I'm going through a lot, but I don't want to say, I don't know if I'm using alcohol to cope. I feel like it's more of I'm at a party, have fun, but I'm overdoing it to where it might become a problem, because especially with my surgery, there's a thing called transfer addiction, where instead of eating, which was my addiction before, my addiction now can be alcohol. And I'm very, very aware of that. But when you're out there having fun, you fucking forget about that. So there's times where I think back, I'm like, no, I can't it'd be a hypocrite of me to go all my life judging my dad only to become him, so
my God,
it's scary and it sucks, especially as adults. You're we try to run away from things that we feel like we don't want in our life, but it only takes us back to that.
Have you ever had moments where this is so bad, we're bro, I feel like I'm like my dad right now?
Yeah, a lot of the time. Do you feel that way just with alcohol?
I feel like some other aspects too, where I'm like, dude, I feel like I don't want to be like my dad out, but I feel like certain traits, I'm like, I feel like I'm my dad, and that's where I'll change it. But definitely, I think I'm not fully putting all the blame on my dad for the whole alcohol thing, but I will say, probably the slight just drinking problems back then came from that.
We almost, I feel like we grew up as adults now, and I feel like we also it's okay to use it. I mean, not that it's okay, but I feel like sometimes we like to use it as an excuse, for me, because it's I used to always blame my dad, alcoholic, fucking alcoholic. I didn't drink until I was 21. Because of my dad. I used to be that kid. I'd be I'm never gonna drink ever. And when I became 21, you like it. It's fun. You kind of almost start being oh, I get it. It's a fun time. But like you said, we like to give the excuse of oh, our parents. But it's sometimes, you said, it's okay to snap out of it and be no, bitch. Maybe it did come from there, but we got to do better, and it's hard. Even though you've gone through, horrible experiences in your life, in these 3 years, we've seen you grow so much as well. What's something in these 3 years that you've accomplished or you've done that make you super proud of yourself and you feel have contributed to the women you are today?
I think it's just me doing everything on my own. I've become these past 3 or 4 years, I feel like I've been very, very independent. And again, when it came to me being social, though, I felt like I always relied on my friends and stuff. But when it came to other things, for example, just I started paying my bills, and when I was when I was 19 or 20, I started getting my car, and then just my rent, everything. I'm very proud of myself in the sense where I'm an independent woman, I don't need to rely on anyone really. And even when I first started working at the restaurant, my mom told me don't work, mija, I got you, just go to college. And I was like, no, I want to make my own money. I've always been like that. I love my parents and I love my family. I love my mom. I know she tries supporting me in any way she can, but as soon as I got the opportunity to make my own money, I took it.
It's hard to go from being dependent on other people. You said, you were so used to your friends, making you get out of your comfort zone. But it takes so much to become independent and to really be you know what? I don't need anyone but myself to do anything I want in this life. And I'm happy for you that that's the route you're going through because it's hard. What's a piece of advice you can give to maybe girls or guys at home watching that are going through that same journey as you are right now?
Doing everything independently. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just overall, it is rough and it's hard. I feel like a lot of times you're just going to think damn, I really am just doing it all on my own. But at the end of the day, just keep in mind that you're making yourself a stronger person, and the outcome is going to be good. Yes, you're going to go through some tough times. It's hard not having my family out here either. But at the end of the day, you're always going to come out a stronger person. Always.
Yo quiero preguntarte, ¿en dónde te miras en los próximos 5 años? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Okay, so I'm about to be 23.
Okay.
So I'd say 5 years.
28.
28, bitch.
Yeah,
Ooh.
fuck, we're pushing 30. I'm like, 5 years, I'll be 30. Fuck, that's crazy.
Honestly, I think in the next 5 years, I'd probably like my late 20s. Hopefully, I'm like finally settled down. I'm in love. You know, I'm already like I've invested in a couple things. You know, I have a house. I kind of want to start a family around that time. Like,
yeah, I feel like that's a good time.
That's a good time. Yeah, like you've already like lived your life. You've traveled. You've had fun with your friends. I really do hope that like that time
you're boot up, you know, wiped up, literally, which I feel like you will. I'm so happy. Yo sé que todos allá en casita también les encantó este episodio. Before we get going, I just want to say thank you. You know, I know you were super nervous.
Yeah.
I was super nervous too. I'm all sudando, but I'm really happy to have you here because I got to meet you a little bit more, and I know people at home did too.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. Yo sé que también a ustedes les encantó. If you guys want to go ahead and follow Emely, I'm going to leave all her socials down below as well as on the screen. Y también no se les olvide seguirme a mí so you guys won't miss any future episodes. And with that being said, thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you guys so much for watching. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys. Yay.